Hey guys, welcome back to another Adventures with Rhonda, and we're talking about dating for marriage. We don't want to get caught in that trap of dating people so we won't be lonely, dating people to have somebody to say that we are in a relationship with. We want to make sure that we find the right one based on what God desires us to have. Because if we start, dating somebody based on what we want, we're going to be looking at all the wrong things and not the right criteria for a husband or for a wife. Now, speaking from personal experience, I had to actually pray and ask God what He desired for me and not my own personal thoughts and plans on it because a lot of times we can kind of, build our dream guy and God is like, that's nowhere near who He wanted us to be with. And we have to reevaluate, is it His way or our own way? And trust that God actually has a plan and knows better than what we do because He sees the end as well as the beginning. So when we take our thoughts out of it and we have a sincere heart to heart, honest to God talk with Him and just say, God, I don't know what it is that you have for the rest of my life. I don't know what it is that you plan for the future, but I do know that I feel that you have called me into a covenant that's called marriage to be with somebody, to be a helpmate, to make their life better. And so we honor you, God, by just accepting the fact that you've placed that desire in us and also that you've placed someone for us specifically because you put that desire in us. And so we want to honor God's decision based on what He has selected for us. Because you may want that 6'10", you know, super male model, supermodel man, and all of these things. And then God's like, no, I don't see that person being the best for you. I'm going to give you someone who I know is what you need. And so trusting God to make sure that we are able to find who He has set us, made us for, is a divine calling, which we have to answer that call if we want to be, happy, if we want to be able to enjoy who God's put before us. And so in my own experience, I think about how I had to let go of the reins and say, God, your will, not my will, be done. And so when He sent me my husband and had me prepare for him, I was thinking, okay, I don't know what specifically that God is doing, but I know that this is the one. I know He is the one. I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, this man is the man God has placed in my heart and gave me the desire to be His wife. And I can tell you, I asked God, are you sure? Are you sure, God? Show me, give me a sign to make sure this man is mine. And I just wanted to be very careful with those emotions and make sure that I wasn't doing anything that was not in God's plan, that wasn't aligned with His standards, and making sure that me and God were on the same page and I was headed down the right path. And so I had this moment where I felt so strongly, like a pain so strongly, and I didn't understand why I felt this pain. And then I had my husband, soon to be husband at the time, call me and frantic, saying, are you okay? I feel like something's wrong, like you're hurting. I'm like thinking to myself, how would he know? And I have asked God, let me, show me a sign that He's my husband. And He was able to feel my pain thousands of miles away. And that happened on a different occasion because I was, like most of you, like, okay, God, really is this person here? I need another sign. And so he was kind enough to give me another sign, and I knew. And once we met, I already knew, and he knew that I was going to be his wife as well. And I saw how God put us together, and I saw that whatever he was weaker at, I had strength in, and whatever he was, stronger in, my weakness was there. And it was just like, wow. So God does have a plan for us. So He does know what we really need. And if we give over those desires and we just let Him be God and let Him do what He does best, He's able to find us our spouse and to give us that love that we are so, desperately seeking, because that desire is there. And marriage is not for everybody. Not everybody is designed to be in a relationship and married. And for those who are called to that, you need to know that God is still working on our hearts in singlehood, and that when we were single, He was preparing us for marriage. And so a lot of times people are like, oh my gosh, when am I going to get married? What is happening? When am I going to find a husband? When am I going to find a wife? And we kind of gripe about the whole process. And, Single Awareness Day, aka Valentine's Day, you may have heard that little holiday that reminds everyone who's single at that time that they're by themselves. And you may want that rose, but do you want it at what cost? Do you want to be trapped in a relationship with somebody you have no interest in just because they are lonely as well? That's not what marriage is for. That's not what God designed our love for. He designed it so it can be a reflection of His love into human form and to, multiply, because that kind of love reciprocates, and God knows how to multiply things. And so we are so obsessed, now about making sure that, oh, he's got to have this, he's got to have that, he's got to have blah, 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 all of these list of material things and not spiritual things. And so at the end of the day, people run around checking phones and making sure that, people are say or where they say they are, versus knowing that you've married somebody who's worthy and has integrity and that will not treat you the way this world thinks a relationship should go. So we're set up by God. That's a divine appointment, a divine relationship. That's the best setup. The best date you want to be on is one that God has provided, one that God has set up. So when our Father in heaven sets us up on on a date, let it be the date that He has desired for us to have, that He looked over our lives and saw our future, and He knows our children who will come from this. All of these things are tied together. And so that's why it's so important not to be unequally yoked, meaning not to be with somebody who who has a different faith level, a different faith walk, because how will two and three walk together except they agree? And if you don't agree, and it's hard to be on the same path with somebody when you're fighting about everyday things. When you're fighting a fight which you were never meant to fight anyway, because if you were on the same page, that wouldn't be a problem in your home. Now, another thing to consider is that if you try to leap ahead of God and find your own spouse, you don't want to be in a place where you feel like, I should have never married that person in the first place. I should have never said I do when you don't. You should have never said I do when you weren't ready. All of these things create issues because you were not where you were supposed to be. You went before God when He should have been directing your steps, when He should have been on the forefront to direct your paths. And you don't want to wake up and realize that the life you have created is nothing more than just a figment of your imagination, where something has been created and you don't even realize that this is your life, that you're so disappointed and disgusted that you cannot even function because you are surrounded in your dysfunction. You're surrounded in the mess that you created. We can look at different people's relationships and ask them, did you see a sign? Did you notice this person just was not right? And then you have people go, now that I think about it, well, thinking should have taken place prior to that I do. Thinking should have taken place prior to that first date. So we want to make sure we guard our hearts and protect our hearts, our mind, our body, our thoughts, because the devil is real and he is seeking to whom he may devour. He is trying to destroy your peace, your joy. And if you are following behind somebody that God has not called you, are you in the right place? Because that spouse you think is supposed to be yours may be meant for somebody else, and you need to be somewhere else. And don't let it be too late and you wait to the last minute and you try to figure out, why did I say yes? That's a hurtful place to be in. Enjoy your singlehood. Enjoy that moment that God gives you of just you. Because guess what? When you get married, you're going to be thinking about the other person, cooking dinner, making sure they're good. And, it just amplifies your daily routine. But the fact is that it makes it better because you have someone else to help you carry those burdens. And so God wants to give you his best and you're not prepared for it. How can he give you his best when you don't even want to give him your best? What kind of father would give his beloved daughter to a man that is not fit for her? What kind of father would let his son marry a woman who does not resemble the standard of holiness? You know, when I say the standard of holiness is the fact that they have a backbone, that there's something there that says, I won't sin against God. I won't lust after somebody else. You are the person God gave me. I won't look at somebody in the wrong way because you are the person God gave me. And so when you are so influenced by the Father giving you the desires to be with this person he's created you for, you forsake all others. Meaning you don't want somebody else's wife. You don't want somebody else's husband because what you have is your good thing. What you have is meant for you. So don't fear, don't fret, don't get upset because you are lonely at this place. You are lonely in this season of time. Because guess what? God can change things just like that. He can have the phone ring, can have you be at a place, a perfect location to find your spouse. But be ready. Be mindful that your union is just not about you because your whole world is affected by the people you are with. If you have to change your circle, if you have to figure out these people are not who they say they are, if you have to walk away from a relationship that you know that this is not of God, you know, this relationship, this person not treating me right, this person's hurting me, this person is physically just tearing me down. Come on. Emotionally draining. Rethink the relationship you're in. Don't say I do before you know who you are. Don't say I do, not knowing if there's somebody else right around that corner that's really meant for you. Take heart, believe, have faith. God loves you. You guys have a blessed day.